Hello! I am back with another RV video. If you aren't aware, I've already done a few about the cost of RVs. I've done what to pack for an RV trip. I've done, there's a few others. I can't remember them off the top of my head right now. But go check them out if you have an RV trip coming up because it will save you lots of time and lots of money, and there's lots of good information for you to know. So today I'm going to talk to you about tips and tricks and hacks all while renting your RV for the first time. And maybe you've rented an RV before, but these tips might not have been something that you thought about the first time around. So, come along.
Welcome to VO's Travel. Where to go and what to see. With kids.
Okay, we took a big RV trip out west with our 3 kids, my husband and I, and our 3 kids. Last summer for 3 weeks. If you're contemplating on going on an RV trip, I just highly recommend it. We had the time of our life. Okay, let's get started. Tips while you are renting your RV. First one is you need to buy RV toilet paper. The systems in RVs are not built to support normal toilet paper, and you'll have a big problem on your hands if you don't. So buy RV toilet paper. The person that you rent the RV from might already have these on hand. If they don't, you will want to grab some. Sometimes the tanks stink. Not always, but sometimes you'll get an odor from the toilet or from the sinks. There are little tabs that you can put down the toilet and tabs you can put down the sink that will help eliminate that smell. So make sure you have those on hand. A funny little tip, store your bread and chips, anything that you don't want to get crunched, in your microwave. When you're driving, the RV shifts around a lot, things in the cabinets shift. Bread will get smashed and chips will get crunched. So storing them in the microwave gives them a little safe place to hang out. Utilize grocery pickup. This saved us so much. It's probably my number one tip. We flew to our first destination and then rented our RV from a place in Denver and then took off on our trip from there. We also returned to Denver, and that's where we took our RV back to. But the day before we left on our flight, I scheduled a grocery pickup with everything that we needed, including groceries, sunscreens, medicines. Schedule a grocery pickup for the day that you're picking up your RV. It will save you hours in shopping. It'll actually give you a while to think about what things you definitely want to order from your grocery pickup. I actually started my list probably a week or two before, and just gradually added items when I thought about it. And then obviously I didn't check out until the day before, and it was ready for us when we grabbed our RV. So we got our RV, learned all about it from the owner, and then our first stop was grocery pickup. And those sweet ladies at Target pushed out 3 carts of groceries for us, but it stocked our RV and we were good to go for at least the first week. So one other thing, research grocery prices and other possible fees according to what states you'll be traveling through. So we started in Colorado, went to Nebraska, South Dakota, over to Wyoming, up to Montana, through Idaho, and then we hit Washington. That's when the prices started to skyrocket. All the other states were really similar to where we are in the Midwest with prices, but Washington, Oregon, and California all have a bunch of extra fees in addition to their grocery prices. Some things you need to look for are bag fees. Some will charge recycling bottle fees. Anytime you buy, like for instance, anytime you buy a water bottle, there'll be an extra fee on top of that because they'll want you to recycle. I'll go through here real quick and show you the different prices of water bottles with each of those different states. Okay, let me show you the price differences and what I'm talking about. This is the price for a package of water bottles in the Midwest, and there is no tax applied because it's a food item. So with my red card discount, I actually pay a little bit under that $2.99 fee. Fast forward to Washington State, the price does jump a tad, but they also add a paper bag fee. And next, Oregon, the prices jumps even a little higher, but in addition to bag fees, they also have a bottle fee. So that same package of water bottles that I would pay $3 for in the Midwest is over $6 in the state of Oregon. Next is California. It looks like the price stays the same from Oregon. And they also have a bag fee and a bottle deposit fee, but their bag fee is way higher than even Oregon. So you're paying over $7 for that same package of water. Back in Nevada, prices jumped down again and no fees whatsoever. So just make sure you check the states and what kind of fees they may have. You can do little mock orders to see what kind of fees they may charge, and just keep all of those things in mind. So what we did was we picked up our groceries, our first haul, right when we picked up the RV, and that was good, like I said, for a good week and a half. And then right before we got into Washington, I scheduled another grocery pickup to avoid all of the extra fees and higher grocery prices right before we got into Washington. And then that got us through almost until we were out of California a week and a half later. We did have to pick up a couple things, but we weren't doing any major grocery shopping when we were going through those states. So, and then I scheduled a third grocery pickup once we got out of California and into Nevada, and that held us through till the end of our trip. We bought lots of water bottles. A freshwater tank, you might not want to drink from that water. And we bought big gallons of water too for dishes or things like that, especially for when we were boondocking. But we also drank out of plastic water bottles. And normally at home we don't do that, but this trip it was just a lot easier. But all that to say, we had water bottles rolling around our RV in all of the beds, just everywhere. My tip is write your name on the water bottle, or write at least an initial on your water bottles. We threw away so many half full or half empty water bottles, and I know that wasted a lot. So writing your initial or name on a water bottle will help save a lot of those water bottles. Gas, oh boy. Right now it is March 2022 and gas. Anyway, thankfully gas prices were not like this last summer when we went on our trip. However, we still wanted to save on gas. So I used the app Gas Buddy, and that pulls up, it's a free app, there are ads, but it will pull up a map of your location and it will show you exactly where gas stations are, and it will tell you the prices for each of those gas stations. So sometimes we saved up to 30 or 40 cents a gallon by just driving another mile in a certain direction. So that was a really nice tool that we used that saved us on gas, so we just didn't have to depend on the next gas station that we come upon when it was time to get gas. Another thing we did was we really saved up on our Kroger points. I don't know if you have a Kroger or that type of grocery store where you live, but where we live, we can save points, and that will give you discounts on gas, and you can use those all over the United States. There's all kinds of grocery stores that are in that same network, and you can use those gas points at those gas stations as well. It doesn't have to just be a Kroger gas station. We use a lot of paper plates, disposable cups, disposable utensils, and in our normal everyday life, we don't do all that. We are a lot more conscious about recycling items and not using things that are going to pollute our earth. But on this RV trip, doing dishes, especially, I did cook quite a bit in our RV, and doing dishes in that tiny little sink with not much water was a pain. So my tip to you is do use disposable items while you're on your RV trip. One thing before you leave, before you head out, after just picking up your RV, or maybe even when the owner is there, go around the outside of your RV and take pictures of any dents and scratches or imperfections. Also on the inside, look at the edges of tables, look at the upholstery, take pictures of every imperfection that you can find so that you're not charged for doing that damage later. Grocery bags, the plastic grocery bags, the ones that they charge you for on the West Coast. Grab extra grocery bags. If you are in a self-checkout, just grab a few extra. We used those as our garbage cans. We just hung those on the little door handles of our cabinets, and that was what we used for garbage cans. There wasn't a big space to set an actual garbage can in the RV, and if there was, that takes up a decent amount of space when you don't have a whole lot of space in the first place in your RV. So stock up on plastic grocery bags. It was nice to just tie them off once they're full so things aren't falling out, and then next time we were at a campsite with a big dumpster, or we were in a parking lot or stores that had garbage cans, we just dumped everything then. Always charge your cell phones or your devices while you're driving, even if you are at like a good percentage, 80 or 90%, always keep them charged. Sometimes when we were parked and the RV was not turned on, we did not have electricity in all of our outlets. So it's just a good idea to always have your devices charged, and the easiest way to do that is to charge them while you're driving. Also keep in mind, there are a lot of places out west and throughout the mountains that you will not have cell phone service. So if you have any maps that you want to download beforehand, if you have any apps that you can download to use offline, do all of that while you have cell service that first day before you start out on your trek, because you don't want to be driving through some place, lose cell service, and then you don't have information to, maybe critical information that you had stored on your phone. All that to say, bring paper maps is a good idea. Just be prepared to not have access to your phone the entire time. Research elevation sickness if you are traveling through mountains. It didn't hit us. We got up to 6, 7, 8, or about 9,000 feet in elevation at times throughout the beginning of our trip, and that didn't seem to bother us. But when we went through Rocky Mountain National Park, we hit an elevation of over 12,000 feet. It didn't seem to bother our children, but it definitely bothered my husband and I. And the owner of the RV that we rented from is from Colorado, and she kind of warned us of that. But do your own research. Make sure to stay hydrated days beforehand. I don't want to give you advice because I don't remember, but there is a vitamin that you can take, and I think ibuprofen might also help with elevation sickness. But just be aware that that is an issue, and do your research beforehand so that you're not getting sick or feeling ill and wondering why that is the case when you're up high in elevation. My last tidbit of advice is to schedule a day or schedule at least a few hours to clean out your RV before you have to get it back to the owner. It did take us probably a good hour just to clean up after ourselves and to get everything out of the RV. I mean, we had been living in it for weeks, so we had everything in every little nook and cranny possible, and we actually ended up leaving some things in one of the drawers that was in the RV. So give yourself plenty of time. Don't rush yourself to get everything out. My advice is to make sure that if you are renting a hotel that last night while turning in your RV, make sure that that hotel has laundry service. And that really helped out. We were able to get to our hotel right at check-in. I think we pulled in maybe 2 or 3 p.m. and we were able to unload everything. We were able to throw everything away in the dumpster at the hotel that we didn't need. We were able to take all of our towels and linens that were provided by the RV owner and get them into the laundry. And that probably took a good 2 hours to do. I think we had to do 2 loads of laundry to make sure everything was washed and dried and put back clean in the RV. So give yourself plenty of time. Make sure you rent a hotel that does have laundry service so that you do have time to get everything back in the condition that you want to return your RV in. So that's kind of how we ended our trip. We pulled into the hotel around 2 or 3. We spent about 2 hours getting everything cleaned out of the RV, doing laundry, and getting it put back together the right way before we met our owner at 5 o'clock that evening. And then we actually had the evening to relax at the hotel. Kids got to swim, and we stayed that last night in a hotel and then took off to the airport. We were able to get a shuttle to the airport for our flight home that next morning. So if you have any other questions or tips you'd like to add, please feel free to mention them in the comments. Thank you so much for watching my video, and as always, I hope you remember to choose joy and take all of the pictures.